team jackets right you got there now. So.
I noticed that too.
I think
So you notice like team, you're always, in cycling, it's like team kit's important. So.
More time.
Dude, that's awfully
My,
efficient.
my shirt is yours.
Practicing.
All right. Hey, good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'd like to call to order the October 30th, 2025 City of Asheville Multimodal Transportation Commission meeting. I'm Jack, and I'm chair of the group. And I'd just like to welcome everyone. It's so exciting to be back and to support the great work of the Transportation Department and the city at large. So thank you for helping facilitate this meeting, everyone. I'd like to do some welcomes before we dive into the agenda. So I'd like to welcome our commission members. So when I call your name, please introduce yourself, your name, and the interests that you represent. And we'll start out with Vice Chair Kenny Armstrong.
Hi, that's me. I think I'm an at-large member. I've been on this committee for a long time. Was previously on the Greenways Committee as well. So I'm a passionate walker and biker and occasional bus rider. And I've been in Asheville for 15 years.
Joe Chesler.
Yes, good afternoon. Joe Chesler, resident of West Asheville, and been on the commission for 2 years now, I guess, with the split with Helene. Avid cyclist and walker, and love Asheville. Been in Asheville about 19 years.
We also have two new members to the commission. So first I'd like to welcome Josh Jones. Joshua, you go by Josh, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I just go by Josh. I'm a local, so I'm downtown. And I think I'll probably be better off representing, people that, have disabilities or they're in public housing or something like that. And they're using transit because, a lot of people in my building use transit. So that's probably where I'll be coming from. So. Yeah,
Josh, thank you for being willing to serve. And our other new member is Micah McLean. Welcome, Micah.
Hey, yeah, thank y'all. Micah McLean, live in West Asheville. I'm the Greenway rep, I believe. And then I bike and bus and walk more than I drive, so pretty well experienced in all three.
We're going to go through our voting commission members first. Bill Loftus.
Bill Loftus. Been on this committee a while. In fact, this is my transition year, so I'm with Transit.
Elise Martyr.
Hi, my name is Elise Martyr. I also live in West Asheville, and I represent bike ped interests.
I'm Randy Warren. I'm the only person from the south side. I live in South Asheville, and I've been on this commission a long time. But I used to be in charge of, I was the chair of the bike task force, which went into joined with Greenways Commission committee to be the Active Transportation Committee, which I don't know where, in terms of our governance, that stands these days if we have subcommittees of meetings that are commissions are only meeting on an occasional basis. But I'm primarily a cyclist and walker, and my son is an avid transit user.
Hey everybody, I'm Kate Ryba. I'm a West Asheville resident, a passionate runner and biker, and currently on the Asheville Downtown Association board and have been on the Asheville on Bikes board. And this is my second year on the commission. Happy to be here.
Have you? I'd also like to welcome our non-voting commission member. That's Jared Wheatley. Jared?
Hi, I'm Jared Wheatley, downtown resident, father of two who get around on every form of transportation you can take downtown as they're 14 and 16. And I'm the liaison to the Planning and Zoning Commission, so I'm particularly interested in ensuring that the plans from this commission get interwoven into our land use policy.
Great to have you. And I'd also like to welcome our city council liaison, Maggie Ullman.
Well, we know it is, we know it is.
Awesome. Couple of other things I want to say before we dive in. One, our two members who were with us back in September who have walked off. I just wanted to thank them for their work. That's Mike Zukowski and Leanna Joyner, who stepped off the commission, but they did great work and were very dedicated. Also would like to congratulate the Transportation Department in the city on the Nasty Branch progress, which is really exciting. Moving that forward. And just in general, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank all city employees, obviously especially the Transportation Department, for the incredible work that you all have done since the last time we met in September. I think most of us as citizens recognize how much work you all have handled. So on behalf of the commission, I'd like to thank. We do have some guests as well, and I wanted to make sure that everyone has had an opportunity to meet. Haven't, hopefully by the following the meeting, is Ashley Hare, who stepped in. Ashley, when did you start as the transportation? November 12th. Good timing, and it's great to have you as part of the city and the work that we're doing together. And then I also want to recognize and welcome some of the other transportation and city staff that are here. Jessica Morris, and Jessica is going to be presenting a little bit later. Anna Sexton, and Haley Burton, and Lucy Crown. And this is our transportation department. Welcome, and I'd also like to welcome Matt Holloway, the city attorney. A city attorney, is that correct, or did I get the assistant city attorney? Thank you. Okay. All right. I've got everyone. So next up on the agenda, and we do have a quorum. Yeah, we definitely. Would someone like to motion to approve the agenda for October 30th, 2025?
Move to approve?
Joe, second. Okay, Kate makes a motion, Joe seconds. Maybe we'll do this a simple way.
No, we don't have to. We
Yeah.
can just say it.
Yeah, we can just say it. Anyone opposed? Do we have to say that? Anyone opposed? Motion passes and the agenda is approved. And the minutes from, next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from September 25th, 2024. Yeah, it started raining like literally right after the meeting. Is there a motion to approve minutes for 9/25/2020?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion about the minutes? Maybe we'll do a roll call. I'm presuming since we have two new members, they would not vote on this, is that correct? Yeah, okay. So, when I call your name, if you would vote with an aye or nay. So let's see, where are my names? Kenny Armstrong.
Aye.
Joe Chesler.
Aye.
We'll skip Josh, since Josh won't vote since he wasn't here. Bill Loftus.
Aye.
Lee Smarter.
Aye.
And we'll skip Micah and Kate Ryba.
Aye.
Randy Warren.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so the minutes are approved.
Jack?
Yes.
Comment?
Yeah,
This version of minutes,
yeah.
because it describes what we really talked about.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You didn't remember what we talked about?
No, I didn't, but I also remember not knowing on other versions of minutes.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I totally agree. Oh, yeah, and I'd also like to thank the Nicoles, the two Nicoles. Okay, yeah, okay, and our other Nicole, what's your last name? Okay, Nicole Bird, yeah, thank you all for helping organize this, and everyone else. I think there are probably other people who thank.
Said we got to give him a year to do the minutes and get him real solid.
Okay. All right, you all. So next on the agenda is public comment. And I do believe we have some folks who are making a public comment. So we don't have an order established, so just come on up to the podium and introduce yourself. And you have 3 minutes in which to present. You don't have to use all of that time if you don't want. And we'll go from there. Kenny will keep an eye on time, and we'll give you a warning. We don't have to stick right to 3 minutes, but obviously we want to. So the podium is open for the public, whoever would like to come up, or any commenters.
Hello. Hi. I have a folder, so you know this is very important. Okay. Hi. My name is Adam Rosen. Sort of awkward, but my name is Adam Rosen. I'm a board member of Connect Buncombe. I've been a board member for, I think, about 4 years. And for those who don't know, we are a 501c3 all-volunteer greenways advocacy group. It's Connect Buncombe, but we're also heavily involved in greenways in the city, supporting them. And so I'm here today to offer our wholehearted support for the Rhododendron Creek Greenway, which would connect the Harmony Creek Greenway to Talmadge Street in West Asheville. And this has been in the plans, in the works for a while. And the past year, past year and a half, my group, along with the Friends of Harmony Creek Greenway and local neighborhood associations, have been doing work to win community support for it. We've had a neighborhood survey by mail and hosted a meet and greet at the West Asheville Library. Both were, the response was overwhelmingly positive. And in fact, a few people who were sort of ambivalent and kind of naysayers left the meeting in support of it because we helped provide information, which is that this would not require taking anyone's property. It would go through the armory, as many of you know, which is all. I think basically this would be a pretty easy win for everyone, especially in light of all of the delays that Helene has caused for other greenways in the county, not as much as in the city, but especially in the county, and recent cycling pedestrian incidents across the city, some of which we know sadly have been fatal. And I think here's what makes it so easy. It's all city owned. The greenway would be a natural surface trail, so it would cost much less than a paved one. And Friends of Harmony Creek Greenway, who would help build and maintain the greenway, is already a trusted and tested partner of the city. So, in conclusion, just urging you to keep moving that forward so we can get this done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Mike Figuera. I am a city resident. I live at 175 Morningside Drive, and I live very close to where this proposed Rhododendron Greenway connector would be. I think Lucy and I started talking about this in 2022, maybe. It's been a little while, and no fault of Lucy. I know her plate is very full, and there's been a lot going on in the city. But we wanted to kind of bring this forward just to let the commission know what we've been talking about. So the former Armory site, as Adam said, is all city-owned. And in order for a very large swath, and I think we sent a map in, I don't know if the public comment map is able to be pulled up, but y'all can picture where the former Armory is. I think it's the maintenance facility now. on Shelburne Road. The Hominy Creek Greenway is right across the street on Shelburne Road from where the maintenance facility is now. Currently, the way that most of West Asheville gets to the Hominy Creek Greenway is either by driving or by going down Brevard Road and then very sketchily crossing a large road where you've got the I-240 interchange. So you're gonna have to make your way across like 3.5 because the road kind of splits there, and you've got the on-ramp starting for I-240. And then there's no sidewalk, so then you end up having to walk in the right-of-way to get to the Hominy Creek Greenway connector. And it has seemed to me for a little while that if we could just walk through the city property from the end of Talmadge Street to, we could just cut right through on a very short path and be right at the head of the Greenway. It would serve a very large neighborhood, but I've been doing development work in the city long enough to know that just because I think it's a good idea doesn't mean other people think it's a good idea. So we sent out a survey to, first we sent out a postcard to 350 residents, or over 350 residents, and we posted on social media and asking people to fill out a survey and let us know what they would think about exploring a non-paved greenway option to connect the neighborhood to the Hominy Creek. And out of that, we got an online response of over 75 people. Out of them, only one person said they would not be interested in it. So then we decided to hold a in-person forum, as Adam said, at the West Asheville Library, and this happened right before Helene in September of last year. And we had 30 people show up for that, 29 responses. Everybody said it was a 10 out of 10 project except one person who said it was an 8 out of 10, and they didn't even live on Talmadge Street. They just said that they could see somebody on Talmadge Street being concerned about parking, and so they thought that's why they were giving it an 8 out of 10. So we felt like after doing the neighborhood work and making sure that we didn't have anybody who was vehemently opposed to it, we should bring this project forward and hopefully see if there's anything we could do to expedite it, because it is a low-cost project that would serve a large neighborhood entirely through city property, and there doesn't seem to be opposition to it. So, thank you.
Mike?
Hey, I'm Holland Youngman. I also live in West Asheville in the Morningside neighborhood. I live right up the street from Mike. And I think Adam and Mike have covered everything pretty well. So I just wanted to give a little bit more attention, I guess, to the safety aspect of this project. Like Mike described, the option now for accessing this end of the Hominy Creek Greenway is to go out to Brevard Road, cross Brevard, if you live in our side of the neighborhood, go up Brevard Road, then you need to, again, cross Brevard Road at that very busy intersection. It feels very much like playing Frogger. It's not a good time to, even for someone who's like running. It's very sketchy. I'll also say I bike a lot in the community. I bike to get around. And a couple months ago, I was run off the road by a large speeding vehicle along the stretch of roadway. I was uninjured, thankfully, but it was really scary. And another friend of mine was actually struck by a vehicle on the same section of Brevard Road, and he broke his arm. So luckily he was okay, but he had a broken arm. So I think that this project is really important from a connectivity standpoint, but also especially from a safety standpoint, and especially just considering the pedestrian and cyclist injuries and fatalities that we've had in this area. Just wanted to really drive home the point that this would be a win for connectivity, for getting a huge portion of the West Asheville neighborhood easy and safe access to the Greenway, and really just keeping people safe on non-motorized ways to get around. So, thank you.
Thank you all for talking about the Rhododendron Creek Connector. Sounds like an interesting project, and grateful for your leadership at the grassroots level. Are there any other public comments? All right. we will move on to new business. And the only item under new business is the Transit Comprehensive Operations Analysis, also known as the COA. And we will provide the commission feedback. We will provide feedback on the two transit network concepts. And Jessica Morris is going to give us an overview of those concepts. So let me just say this, is I think what we'll do after Jessica, once Jessica finishes their presentation, I'll open the floor for questions to verify about the presentation. And if you could be very focused, have one question, no comments at this point, just questions, and ask one clear question, and then make sure before you ask another question that other members of the commission have an opportunity to ask a question. And then we'll open the floor to a discussion about those transit options. And what I'm hopeful that we do is, this might be aspirational from my standpoint, but I don't think we'll come to consensus over how our transit system should be. I don't think that's the purpose for today. I think it's to give some thoughtful feedback to council and to the transportation department. So aspirationally, it'd be neat if we can get to some kind of recommendation or some kind of statement that we can pass on. We may not get there, but that's sort of the aspirational end goal. We'll see what we do. But I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm obviously not Ricky Angadiera from Jarrett Walker and Associates, but he has graciously provided this presentation for us, and I'll run through it. I probably won't do it as good as he's done it in the past, but bear with me. So I just wanted to start out with kind of where we're at. We're coming to you now sort of in the middle of this process. We are in the second phase. So the first phase, which we called the choices phase, was where we did, with our consultant, a lot of the analysis of our existing service, looking at the demographics, census data to see who we're serving. We also had a public survey that was out during phase one, just to get some initial information about what our priorities should be. And so we are now in the phase two, which we call the concepts phase, and that's what this presentation is based on. So after this, and I have a next step slide that goes into detail, but after this we will be basically preparing a draft plan, a draft network, and we'll talk more about that. So what is access and what makes transit useful? So here is a person, and she is in a city full of possible destinations. And in 30 minutes, she can reach anywhere in that gray area. And her access to jobs and access to education and shopping is whatever she can get to within that area. That's how we look at access. When we're looking at transit, we're not just looking at the time that you're riding the bus, but also the time that you're walking to it, you're waiting for it, and then on the, on the front side of your trip, as well as the back side of your trip. So we're taking into account that whole time period. And this matters because access is about what you can do within a shorter amount of time, the possibilities, the access that you have to services, and potential for ridership. So what maximizes access? So generally speaking, what studies have found is that higher frequency that is focused in dense, walkable, and more or less linear spaces is going to provide higher levels of access, because this is how you bring the most useful destinations within that reasonable total travel time, and also where you're serving the most people, the denser locations. So this is where it gets really sticky, is talking about what is called the ridership coverage trade-off. Also, you could think of it as the frequency coverage trade-off. And what we've been trying to be very clear about through this process is that there isn't a right or a wrong answer, because both are very valuable and serve different purposes and different needs. So if you have a limited amount of resources, then we have to, with our limited resources, determine how do we want to allocate those. And so this is where ridership versus coverage comes in. So this is a fictional urban area. All the little dots represent jobs and residences. And you have, let's say you have 18 buses, which is basically what we have. Running at one time is 18 buses. So how do you want to allocate those 18 buses? If you're thinking about, oh, my goal is ridership, I want to have as many people riding as possible, then what you'd probably do is you would choose 2 main routes or 3 or what have you, and you'd put all your buses on those routes running more frequently. So having straight lines is more efficient. And if you have, like I said, fewer lines with more buses running on those, that is going to be a more productive system if you're looking at ridership. So on the flip side is the coverage goal. So there's these 2 ends of the spectrum. So coverage is thinking more along the lines of trying to provide some level of access into more areas. So you would have what you see here, which is more routes, but they're probably coming, or they're definitely coming, way less frequently than if you had fewer number of routes with more buses. So more routes everywhere, less frequency, more complexity, lower ridership, because it's not going to be necessarily a useful service for a lot of people, but it provides some service to most people. So both of these things are very important, but they are at the complete ends of the spectrum. So ridership, if you're looking at ridership, it's maybe you're thinking of it more as a business. There's a lower subsidy per passenger. It supports dense and walkable development. It might take more cars off the road and reduce emissions, whereas the coverage goal is you're thinking more like an access for all, but it's more in tune with low-density development, but it's providing that lifeline, that access for people pretty much no matter where they live. So it's a spectrum. And the question is, where should we be on the spectrum? So the phase that we're in right now is we developed 2 concepts that are attempting to demonstrate that dichotomy between the 2 ends of the spectrum. And this was developed with our working group, which Joseph was a member of, and we had other folks in the community that participated in the working group, and we had a 4-day, very intense session with our consultants where we created these options. Actually, I'm not going to say options, they're concepts. And so we will go through these, but it's very important to remember they're not proposals, they're concepts meant to demonstrate the trade-offs. And both of them are basically using the existing level of resources we have now. So the same number of buses, the same number of drivers. Keep in mind, even though we haven't expanded its service in a long time, the cost keeps going up. So when we say current budget, we basically mean the system the amount of resources we have right now. So this is our existing network, and the primary challenges that we have right now are poor on-time performance, which is on-time performance, of course, is a huge measure in terms of reliability. People need to get where they need to go. If the on-time performance is not good, there's a huge likelihood that folks are not going to be able to get to appointments on time, their jobs on time. So that is one of our current challenges. We also have connections between routes and the timing between routes that is problematic for folks that need to make transfers. So this is our ridership concept. And let me go back real quick. So just the colors, and I know you can't really see, but the red, orange, that is meant to be a route that goes every 15 minutes. You can see we don't have any of that color in our current map. We have close to 15 minutes on a part of Haywood Road, but it's not really technically 15 minutes. Purple is every 20 minutes. We don't have any purple. Most of our system is the blue and the green, which is every 30 or every 40 to 60 or every 90. Our southern routes are every 90 minutes. So the ridership concept is basically just leaning hard into having a few routes that are primarily 15-minute service and having a couple routes that provide service every 30 minutes. And you can see where our current system is essentially a coverage, more coverage-based. So if you go to ridership, there's a lot of lines that disappear, right? So that's attempting to show what these trade-offs are that we're talking about. So key features, higher frequencies along the city's main corridors, and it provides more access to opportunities for folks that live within, near those routes or can walk to those routes relatively easily, but there's a loss of coverage. The coverage concept, it does look very similar to what we have now, but and we didn't go even farther in our coverage concept. Like our existing system is kind of in the middle of the spectrum right now. We could have gone farther, which would have meant taking some frequency off of existing routes and adding more routes into more parts of the community. But so this coverage concept looks very similar, but there are a few changes, but essentially it maintains service that we have already. So time connections, we'll talk a little bit about this, but the quality of the connections matters, and this is part of our existing issue. But you want all of your routes to come in at the same time, people make their transfers, and they can go out. And so if you don't have that, if you have what's in the top box, it renders your system even more unusable or difficult to use for people. So our existing network, these lines indicate when we have arrivals and departures, and they're kind of all over the board. No matter what we do, we will work on improving this. And so even with the coverage concept, if we didn't really change much about our system, we could make improvements to optimize how the arrivals and departures come in so that they're bunched together more and can facilitate timed connections better. So how many people are near transit? So this is our existing network. Might be a little difficult to see, but basically what we're looking at here is like a bar graph that shows what the percentage of people are within a half mile of our existing transit network, and the colors represent the frequency. So the 25% in that dark blue means that we have that many people that are within a 30-minute frequency route, a half mile of a 30-minute frequency route. And the next, I'll just put the next one up, the ridership network. You can see the big change here is that 30% of the folks within a half a mile would then have a 15-minute frequency. So right now we've got 25% that live within with a half a mile of a 30-minute route. That would increase, 30% would be within a half mile of a 15-minute route. And 15 minutes is kind of like the key goal for transit, because with 15-minute frequency, you don't have to time your life around your transit. You know that the most you're ever going to have to wait is 15 minutes if you just miss the bus. You don't necessarily have to plan all of your trips out because you know that it's coming within 15 minutes or less. So the coverage concept is really similar to what we have today, like I said. So a little bit of the access improves with the coverage concept, but mostly you're still seeing that the bulk of the routes are 30-minute routes or less frequent. And so it's very similar to the concept or the existing network that we have today. So that was like total persons that are within a half a mile. This next slide breaks it down into low-income persons near transit and persons of color near transit. And so these are really important factors that we're looking at when we're making any decisions about transit and trying to think about folks that might be more transit dependent, don't have access to a car, maybe don't have a driver's license or can't have one. So this is an important set of data to look at as well. And so this is, we have a handful of examples where we picked like a destination and we can kind of illustrate what the different change in access is between the different concepts. And so this is the Aldi that's on Patton Avenue out west. And this is showing with the ridership concept, from that point, within 30 minutes, the green indicates where you can go within 30 minutes. And again, that's not a 30-minute on the bus, that's the total walk time to walk time, like literally the origin to the destination. So the gray area is meant to say that that's where you could go within 30 minutes of that Aldi on Patton with our existing network. The green shows how much more you can access in that time frame with the ridership network. So yeah, area gained, area lost. There's a little bit of area that would be lost with the ridership network because the ridership network shrinks in. So this is just breaking it down more. For example, you get access to 470% more jobs with this ridership network, and you're serving 91% higher residents. Coverage network, very similar to our existing. So we did change a little bit of the network out there, and so there is a loss in access to jobs with the coverage network from our existing, and a loss on the residential side as well. Here's another example, different location. This is the Grace Church up on North Merriman, and you can see how with the ridership network, because it's adding a lot more frequency on Merriman, you're expanding your access to jobs and residents. And the coverage network is very, very, very similar to today because we didn't make any changes to that area. So this is just another way of kind of looking at it globally. This is the change in access with the ridership concept. The brown areas are where you have a change in the access downward, and then opposite of that, the dark green represents a change in access. And this is also, again, within a 30-minute travel time. So we can increase the average person's access to jobs by 10%, and persons served, this always trips me up, but maybe somebody can help me. The average person means like globally across the city, whereas person served means within that half-mile kind of dense capture area. So the folks that might live near those higher frequency transit routes can get access to 25% more jobs, whereas the average person across the city with this network would still see an access increase to 10% more jobs. So coverage concept, 30-minute access really isn't going to change very much. So this is where it gets challenging. The key features of the ridership concept, again, are the higher frequency along the city's main corridors. There's additional access to opportunities, but there's a loss of coverage. And then the coverage concept, which is very similar to what we have today, still provides service to folks that we have today. We would, no matter what, improve the on-time performance and the timing of the connections. So we have been asking the question, essentially, a number of questions to folks about what their preference is and what they think. And so this phase of engagement, we had a survey that was open starting in September 27th, and it just wrapped up on the 26th. We have not put together survey results yet, so don't get excited because we're working on that right now. But we did a lot of tabling and public events, postings and advertising to try to reach as many people as we could. So we're preparing a report, and essentially this is what we've been asking people. And then we've also been asking people some questions like, would you prefer to have a shorter walk and wait longer for the bus? Or would you have a longer walk and a shorter wait? So those kinds of questions also feed into this. And so we're asking people their preferences. Would you, if you have closer stops, then you might have shorter walks, but your bus slows down with each stop. So we're asking folks, like, what would you rather do, a 3-minute walk and have a faster bus, or a 5-minute walk and it maybe is a little bit, shorter walk, slower bus, longer walk, faster bus. So next steps are, after today, we are working on preparing the report that will put together all of the survey data that we've collected from this phase. We will present that information to the City Council during their agenda briefing on November 13th. We won't be asking them for any decisions. We're just saying, here's what we learned from our public survey. Then the following week, on the 18th of November, that is when we'll be asking City Council to give us some feedback on this spectrum of coverage versus ridership. Pending a decision that day, staff would turn around and get back with our consultants, and what we would do is we would draft we create a draft network based on that balance between the two. So again, what we presented are just concepts. We'll figure out with council what their preferred balance between those concepts is, and then turn around and create a network that reflects that. And through that, we'll also be saying more concretely, okay, if you want to take this step towards ridership, this is where we add service and this is where we lose it. So that it be, it's a real thing, right? So we will create this draft network and we will come back in February with that draft network and what those impacts are, and then get more feedback from council then. And then ultimately, we would develop a final report. But we still, we would still have to get direction from council on any changes, because there's budget considerations as well, but we wouldn't make any like drastic changes to our system without not only going through this process, but then also reconfirming with council, do you want us to make these changes or not? If there even are any, there may not be. Okay, that's it.
All right. Jessica, thank you very much. I know there's a lot to cover in that, and it's hard to explain. Okay, so first of all, y'all, before we open the floor to discussion, are there any questions for Jessica regarding the presentation?
Yes, first of all, Jessica, thank you. As a member of the working group, as she said, I was very impressed by the level of analysis that Jared Walker and Associates provided to us. It was really inspiring. One question, though, I failed to ask earlier was, what brought about the establishment of our existing network? Could you just give us some background? Was that ad hoc? Certainly, it's more of a coverage aspect, as you mentioned. But if you have any knowledge about that, how did it end up like it is?
Oh.
Briefly.
Okay. I think where we are today is most directly related to the Transit Master Plan from 2017. Yeah, 2017. I mean, the system, I'm sure, has taken a lot of different, has had a lot of different changes over the years, but what you see today is most directly related to the Transit Master Plan. And the first year of that Transit Master Plan, like the recommendations that the Transit Master Plan said for year one, that's pretty much what you see today. And that when we implemented a big part of that first set of recommendations in January of 2020, and that was basically a 25% increase to service, and it included some additional frequency on some routes. It included an extension on the route that goes up New Leicester Highway up into the county. It included, I think, one other route that I can't remember right now, but basically what you see today is what we implemented in January 2020, and as you know, 2 months later, everything changed, and we have not studied and looked really hard at what's happened since then. So that's also a big part of this process, is revisiting everything that we implemented in January of 2020.
Any other questions, y'all? Yeah, Randy, and then Bill,
So,
and Kate.
Transit Master Plan was a huge project, obviously, and we kind of implemented step one of 132 steps or whatever, not quite that many, but we barely scratched it.
Yeah.
Barely scratched it.
Correct.
So looking at that master plan and what we're talking about today, what's the overlap in those? Because the first one was more extensive than what we're doing even now in some ways, I think. and huge resources and planning very carefully and doing all this kind of stuff, are we just throwing that aside? Or are we saying, these are the elements of that we're utilizing in whatever we do now, or I don't know, tell me about that.
That's a really good question. It's hard to answer. What we're doing now is not meant to replace the Transit Master Plan. Transit Master Plan has a lot of good recommendations about adding frequency to a lot of our routes, and it has recommendations for new routes. The problem is that both of those require more resources, right? So what we wanted to do with this study is to say, with our existing resources, is our balance between these two things good? Because we often hear, we need more ridership, or we need a route that goes to this place. And that's kind of what the Transit Master Plan is saying, is like, here's all the expansions and additions that would be helpful for the community. This is meant to say, like, okay, here's the reality of what we have now. Do we have the balance right now? And then if and when we have additional resources, then we can start to implement some of those items from the Transit Master Plan, more items from the Transit Master Plan. Does that make sense?
I think it's a little bit complicated dance in that, but I think
Yeah.
I understand, yeah. Ideal was that we have the funding that the master plan called for, and then we wouldn't need to worry about what we're doing now, because we would have increase, but that's just not the reality of the situation.
Yeah. The Transit
Much other
Master
things.
Plan didn't have the financial side, and that's a huge part of it. And so another part of this study will focus on that. So if everybody says, well, we want both, it's like, okay, well, here's what the real costs are for any additions. And if you don't have those additional resources, but you want higher frequency on X route, then where are we taking? Where are we pulling the string? You pull on one end of the string and it shortens on the other side.
Y'all, let's stay focused on asking questions to clarify the plan, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So I know we do want to get there. Bill, do you have a question to clarify the presentation, from the presentation?
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. So the concepts, it looks like a lot of analysis is looking relative to where we currently live, right? We said we can, if you're in the audience, very clearly see current state Asheville, I think, is what I'm getting out of this.
Mm-hmm.
So there must be a lot underneath those covers to get there. My question is, the city has done a lot of great work around the comp plan, the missing middle. Those always have some segment that says the targeted plan zone for living, working, and so forth. Has there been any analysis yet on these two concepts, how they would be reflected on the planned Asheville, the planned zones where people intended to live or intended to live? That been done yet on these two concepts?
Yes and no. So the comp plan does speak towards wanting to have transit, I can't remember the exact term they use in the comp plan, but it's like transit-oriented development on transit, higher frequency transit routes, which aligns more with the ridership concept, right? So the ridership concept is looking at having fewer routes that have higher frequency in more dense and more walkable places, which is what a lot of what our comp plan speaks to from a development perspective. There are other aspects of our comp plan that talk about providing access to people in neighborhoods and farther out places. So it's our comp plan. It's not a direct correlation to the comp plan, and that's why this is a difficult thing because there's pros and cons on both sides, and there are elements of the comp plan that probably would support both sides if you started to piece it together. From the land use development perspective, the ridership concept, I would say, more closely aligns with that, what's in our current comp plan.
Well, can I just,
Hold off. I'm going to, Kate, you have the floor next, but before I hand it off to you, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor to discussion at the moment. So if you can keep your comment, focused and brief, or question, Kate, and feel free to ask questions of further clarification. But let's go ahead and dive into discussion. The thing that I ask is that if you take the floor, is make sure that it gets passed off. Someone else has an opportunity. Make sure that everyone, including our new members, have an
Great. Thanks, Jack. You're an excellent facilitator. Kind of building off what Randy was talking about with the financial piece of this plan, you mentioned that's going to be part of this process. So in May, then next year, will there be options for, if there are going to be additional, extensions that people are requesting, or something that's just going to cost more that people are interested in? Will that be presented in May in time to maybe do budget planning for the following year? Is that what?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're trying to align it as best we can. It would be too far past the current budget year. So any changes to anything monetarily probably wouldn't show up until FY '28.
2028, yeah, okay.
We are expecting, so kind of on a separate tangent, and I'll try not to go down it too far, but we're in the last year of our contract with our transit operator. So we also have right now an RFP out for the next contract. Could be the same contractor, could be a new one. Regardless, we are very confident, unfortunately, that the costs are going to be a lot higher than what we've been paying. So even with the same level of service, we could be looking at a much higher cost than and we see costs go up every year, right? So trying to keep those two things separate, because this is really about what's the right balance for Asheville. And then the financial reality comes in kind of separately.
I understand that the reality is that we're limited financially. I can respect that. Do you see an opportunity, let's say if we were to go with the ridership concept, and now more and more people are using it, that then funding would increase for the service that a lot of people are using, and then we would see additional funds put in that we could start easing more of the coverage back in?
I wish I could say yes, but no. So, our fares are like a smidge of our cost. Transit is always heavily subsidized. And
Well, not just have more funds because there's more fares being collected, but there's greater value being seen in it. So then when budgets are set, more funds are given that way.
I'd love to jump in on this one. I think something that's really important to remember is why and when City Council led to do this. We had a joint agreement with the county to both put in a bunch of money to explore the feasibility of collaborating on transit and transportation across jurisdiction lines. And that fell through at the last minute and the county pulled out. And so we had this money and we said, okay, what are we going to do with it? And part of the reality when you look at transit services is that effective, successful ones that really, really mode shift are aligned with comprehensive land use planning and have way more money than property taxes and federal dollars. The transit systems that we admire in our state have quarter-cent sales tax at the county level. If we did that, we'd be looking at like $18 million a year, and we'd have a really, really awesome transit service. And to date, that value proposition hasn't been compelling to enough Buncombe County residents for things to move in that direction. And I don't begrudge any of my peers on the county commission. I understand that. If you live in rural Leicester, you go, transit? I don't want to pay more taxes for transit. That's not for me. I can understand that. But the reality is we were closer than we'd ever been on really trying to do some long-range transportation planning with the county, and that fell through at the last minute. So to your question, one of these models help us get more money? Jessica's totally right. The fare doesn't really play into the financial model. But if we had a service that was on time, reliable, that had a lot more community people advocating for, using, and participating, could that create a stronger case for the value of the service for others to invest in? Maybe. So that's, maybe we could compel partnership from others. It can be hard to go to others and say, invest in our system, and they go, but it's broken and you haven't resolved it or fixed it. So that's some of the political dynamic that has come up about this. So that's just one layer for how to think about it.
Yeah, other comments? Then over back to you, Bill.
Sure. Thank you, Councilperson Ullman. This is, I just wanted to also update because I'd forgot that the funding for this research had come through from that little drop in funding from the county side. Since we last met, City Council has done a lot to align the comprehensive plan and land use incentives along the routes that are kind of shown on the more ridership concept. So since this commission's last met, City Council moved forward with, we'll say, reducing overall the residential parking requirements within, we'll say, access to transit, so transit opportunities, and then also has changed project level thresholds for larger scale multifamily development and more diverse housing types on commercial corridors, which is what we would see kind of along Tunnel Road, down Hendersonville Road, on Patton Avenue. And so, stop me if I'm wrong, but part of that, this is part of creating a more interwoven, more financially resilient plan where developers who may be looking to invest, you know, tens to hundreds of millions of dollars may target adaptive reuse on existing commercial parcels that don't always seem as easy to develop as greenfield sites inside the county. So just kind of weaving these conversations together.
Anybody else before we go back to Bill?
So you can't do that. The way that we have to look at it is look at what can the folks that live near those places, what additional access could they have? It's not possible to say that we're going to get X more riders. We can say that the folks that live there are going to be able to go this many more places within a certain shorter amount of time. So we can't really do a ridership analysis because someone could still not choose to ride it, even if we made it way more frequent. There is.
But you're saying there's not.
No, there is, but I can't project it. I can't quantify it. I can quantify, I know through the research that the folks that live closer to a higher frequency Like, if you've got more density and which means more people are gonna have higher access, there's going to be more people that choose to ride it. But we can't quantify what that will be. So we can after the fact, but we can say that if you have a route on Tunnel Road and it comes once every 60 minutes versus one on Tunnel Road that comes once every 15 minutes, you're bound to see a higher ridership with the 15 minutes, but you can't really quantify it because you're still serving the same number of people. It's not really possible. Like, we can look at other places, and I think they've referenced Knoxville recently moved towards a higher ridership concept, have implemented it, and they've seen an increase in ridership. But you can't project it because there's still the same number of people within that half mile.
Essentially, you're saying like consultants whose like livelihood is baked on credibility, like there isn't an engineering formula to make projections like this,
Yeah.
but we know like best practice in industry trends that it goes in that direction.
Surprised they don't have a benchmark. You do in consulting.
I think there's a lot of variables at play. Jarrett Walker is like the preeminent transit, and if they could, they would. I think they just want to be very careful about saying like, oh, you're going to get 50% more because you don't know.
It's so hard, I think, to forecast the future, especially with, a giant highway project about to begin that will likely cause increased congestion, I presume, on our main corridors, which makes the time cost of driving a lot higher, which might encourage more ridership. Yeah, I can see the difficulty in variables that are just very difficult.
If we put 3 times as many buses on Merriman today, yeah, we'll probably see increased ridership on Merriman, but I don't know for sure, and I don't know how much.
Question. Oh, yeah. I get to ask questions later. Never
Go
mind.
ahead, and then we'll come back.
Do we have kind of like hard numbers based on going from the coverage concept to the ridership with current ridership? Do we know how many people lose? How many like regular bus riders lose coverage?
We have not done that analysis yet, so when the next step, we would create the draft network, which if we moved to, council could decide, we don't want to take away from anybody, we're going to keep it all the same, optimize the network as best you can. But if council said, you know what, we want to make a baby step in towards ridership, that equals automatically a cut somewhere, right? So that is where we would come back and say, here's what that impact would be. Here's where that addition would be, and here's where that reduction in service would be. And we would be able to say, here's what the ridership is for this and what's for this. So that's the next step.
But I guess we don't have like just regular data on the number of bus riders from different like existing routes and stops.
Oh, we do. We do.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we have very robust ridership data by stop, by route, by time of day.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Sorry,
okay.
I misunderstood.
Over here, and then we'll roll back around. Or Maggie, do you have something urgent to add?
I get to ask a lot of questions eventually, but
Okay.
selfishly, like I would love, November 18th, I have to be part of the conversation. I would love to hear. That's maybe a selfish request for input.
How about if members are comfortable doing that as you're commenting, feel free to share where you are on that concept spectrum. So who is next? Randy?
So from a transportation department perspective, if we went to the higher ridership model, realistically see that impacting our other networks like pedestrian and bicycle networks to increase access to the higher ridership. So it makes sense that we make more bike facilities going towards the network, maybe more sidewalk facilities or pedestrian facilities towards that network. That would require a comprehensive view to how transit fits into our transportation network, our non-motorized transportation network. Do you see that happening?
I don't feel comfortable speculating. I mean, I would love to say absolutely.
That would be ideal, I know, but it may be that our resources don't allow us to be able to do that kind of thing, even though bike pedestrian facilities relatively are the low-cost way to gain access.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't say that we would start changing drastically our CIP, but perhaps, I mean, the GAP plan uses, one of the criteria for the scoring includes access to, is it close to transit? That is a criteria. So if our transit network changed, then that might change some of our priorities for building things. But then again, if you've gone to a ridership network and you've taken some access, transit access away from places, then do you prioritize other modes in those places that just lost transit? It's kind of that's also a really hard question.
Randy, do you have a sense of where you are on that spectrum? Are you comfortable?
Well,
are you coverage, ridership, middle?
I have a number of strong opinions on it. One is we don't fund transit enough. We should shift our finances in our area to prioritize it more. Right now, we prioritize motorized transportation in an unhealthy way, and we don't prioritize our bicycle and pedestrian network. If we shifted, again, I always say that if we want to plan for the city we want to be, rather than responding to the city that we are, we would approach things much differently than we do. And so it takes city council and city management to be very bold, and right now we're not. If we were bold and we had a vision of who we want to be and working actively towards that, we would approach everything differently. And that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
And so if we can be more bold, if we said, hey, we're going to do the higher ridership model because we want to have more ridership and we want to have access to that, and we're going to use it, achieve that through expanding our bicycle and pedestrian network, for example, which is such a small piece of this. But if we just did that, I'd be much more for the higher ridership. But if we're saying, no, we're not going to really make it easier to use that, then it makes it say we shouldn't go as far towards higher ridership as we might normally be able to do.
Kate, and then Joe. Go ahead, Kate.
Sure. Yeah. So I've worked in local government and I've been on a city council, so I know you're not going to love this question or comment, but one of the really cool things about transit, about bus transit, is that you don't have to build any infrastructure to make changes.
Right.
And so I'm curious if, has there been any discussion as part of this process? Let's try the ridership model for 12 months and see what happens, or 6 months. And I know that that's not an easy endeavor to organize, but I'm just curious, has there been any discussion about a pilot program to try some version of this to see how it performs, or is it really just we're going to go whole hog one way or the other way?
Well, let me just say, we don't have to go whole hog on anything. There's also an incremental approach too, right?
Yeah,
we could take one step to the left, or we could take 20 steps to the left, and that's what we'll get from council. Now, piloting a more drastic change, I think, would be really difficult even though it's maybe not an infrastructure-heavy thing.
Operationally,
Operationally, it's a huge change. Even the 2020 increase that we did took many, many months to implement with the passengers, with the drivers, with the maps, schedules. So it's, I would say we probably wouldn't want to do something where we're piloting it, but it's not off the table 100%. It just be a challenge.
Kate, where do you sit?
Yeah, I kind of echo Randy's comments, just more the ridership model, kind of that vision of where we want to be instead of where we are is what I'd support. Yeah.
I've also been a ridership advocate certainly upon learning of the data that was presented and evaluated in light of our existing network. One thing to Micah's comment, we're really not losing coverage by adopting a ridership model, in my opinion. You're simply shifting the decision by the user from having to wait a half hour or 45 minutes or whatever it is to a 15-minute model, even though they have to walk a little bit further to the route. These central corridors do serve these outlying areas, but you have to get to that route is the only comment I would make. Also, we're looking at where the opportunities lie for users by these coverage models that were shown, not coverage, wrong word, by the location of where people want to go. Jessica showed a couple, and the report shows a couple of presentations of where those markets, where those jobs are. And so I think the ridership model would be the optimal way to go in this sense. For now.
If you guys want to say whether you strongly prefer it or you're like leaning towards it, that's also helpful. Like, are you
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Just one question is, and maybe I'm making this up in my head, but I feel like I've heard in one presentation that word about an 8, if it's a scale of like 1 to 10, an 8 towards coverage. Is that accurate, or do we even have a sense of where we are now? Are we like fully cut? You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like, did I hear that right? We're an 8 out of 10.
We're like we're like a 60-40. They've said ridership.
Okay, 60-40.
Like we're
60 coverage, 40 ridership.
I think it's actually the opposite,
Okay.
but we're really talking about, like, we could have done a sample model with more coverage, but we decided this was probably the most coveragey we were going to get. So we're basically already on the blue end of the spectrum. So essentially, if you think about it like this, any change towards ridership is a change towards ridership. Like, does that make sense? Okay.
You all, I'm keeping our eye on time, so keep your comments, succinct, and we'll use the time that we need to have a good discussion, but just being thoughtful of it. Josh.
Oh, yeah, so Maggie asked about philosophy, like what's your philosophy about the bus system? And I do think that based on what you just showed, that the ridership model would probably be better because you're making less changes to your system, and that creates less turmoil, less volatility. If the plan that came before all of this, that they were talking about from 2023 or whatever, if that is robust enough and it's set up so that you can take and add routes, you should probably just keep that system and start working off of it. And I agree with what Maggie said earlier with the to get taxes and stuff to help with that. Yeah, I would go with the ridership model for sure.
Where do you all sit? And to Jessica's point, how specific can you be?
Jessica, excuse me, Jack. Jessica, doesn't the survey have that scale on it?
Yeah, I think it's basically what I have up on the screen here, which is like strongly prefer, lean toward. It doesn't ask people to say I'm a 8 out of 10. it's more, a little bit more vague.
For perspective, I live in the south side, and it's easy to take the bus to the airport. Well, I mean, it should be. But I rarely do, because a couple times I've gotten off the plane, the bus is supposed to come by, and I've seen it go by, and they keep changing the way it is and stuff too. Now it's 90 minutes. I call Uber, you know? So I want to do that, and right now we're in the high coverage, you know, I want to do it, and I can't. If we did the high ridership, if it came even every 30 minutes, I would wait 30 more minutes, you know, and get that rather than call and spend whatever, $30 on Uber, you know? So for me right now, to take that trip, it's almost impractical. It's almost like it doesn't exist. But if we use the ridership, then it is. But that's a different thing too. So I'm not relying, you know, depending upon to go to my job or something like that too. It's just I want to use transit in that situation, and I can't base it on our current system. So, you know, and then I know my son, who takes transit a lot, has gotten left. The buses didn't pick him up, whatever, too, and now he can't do it. That's it now. So he's calling somebody to give him a ride, because if that bus, and this happened a number of times, and I think I've talked to you, Jessica, about it several times, where the bus driver pulls up, didn't open the doors, and took off, and whether he wasn't standing in the exact right spot or whatever, too, it doesn't matter, because now he can't take the bus again. It's a non-option. And so if we remove that from the ridership option, then obviously he doesn't have a chance to take it at all. But if it was a high ridership, and it was going to come by another bus, like now he's in LA, and his bus comes every 6 minutes. So one misses him, or one disappears from the app, which happens all the time. There's another one in 6 minutes, you know, so he can still get to school in time. In our community, that isn't possible, you know. So it's, you know, I mean, right now our system is only useful to the people who have to take it, pretty much, you know. And that's just broken. That's not, and there's, I mean, right, but it's not right. It's just not right. It shouldn't be just for people. It should be, you know, if we want to change transportation in Asheville, it has to be a viable option, just like walking or bicycling or anything else is too. If we want to get more cars off the road, it has to be a viable option. And the way it is right now, it's not, I don't think.
Oh, go ahead.
So if you want a good transit system, you need to focus on frequency, and that's what the ride. Not end of story. The data we saw today, unless I'm interpreting it wrong, and Joe, we need to have a conversation. It looks to me like the lower income households are going to be severely affected by the ridership model because they don't have as much access. They have, well, let me say it differently. It looks like they have worse access in the ridership than they do in the coverage. And maybe I misunderstood that. Low-income persons near transit goes from 35% in the existing world to 59% are not within, well, how do you read that? The big gray is bad, right? Big gray is bad. So the existing network, 35% of low-income persons are in a bad shape. If you go ridership, 59% of low-income persons are in bad shape. That's not good.
One more slide forward, though, because it would actually help me if the all persons was on the same slide as the others, because if you see, it's not like it's disproportionately affecting low income or persons of color. The all persons also has the same amount of drop. But I understand what you're saying. I mean,
all I'm saying is this system is for the people who can't afford a car. You go ride it. I did today. That's who you see riding this system. I wish we could get LA system. If we had ridership, we probably would have different people on.
Where do you land? Do you have a sense? Can you share that
Yeah.
with Maggie and the commission?
I definitely lean ridership, but I also recognize that with the ridership concept, I'm still like a 3-minute walk away from a bus stop. And I also have a car, so I'm not dependent on transit. I do recognize that. I also think, so while I do lean ridership, it would be helpful for me to have a third data point that actually showed what a 50-50 concept looked like. Because I understand the two extremes right now. If I had a 50-50, I think that would help me refine whether I lean more towards 50-50 or more towards high ridership, because I know I'm somewhere in the middle.
Hard for me to,
Yeah, take very briefly,
so
Bill. So we can
it's
pass
hard
it
for me to imagine us not needing a hybrid draft. If all we did was say concept 1 or 2, and you went down either of those roads, you're going to miss something. Say, for example, if you could find a variation of these concepts where you covered all the legacy neighborhoods, that might occupy 12 out of 18 routes. But then you had ridership elsewhere, then you could pilot. That might be a more appropriate answer for council to consider.
I think that's our existing network. Our existing
No,
network.
because you don't have any 15-minute routes. It is
Right.
not your existing
But
network.
we can't hit all of the legacy neighborhoods, all of the public housing. Our community is so spread and low income,
Well, you may not be able to get all of them. All I'm
Right.
saying is if some hybrid comes along where we can get almost there but not quite, and you still entertain some ridership concept, at the end of the day, that's going to have to be done. Or it's hard for me to imagine
that requires
council
additional
accepting-
resources.
I'm
Yeah.
sure, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a big,
so-
it's a big job.
We're going to start, for the sake of time, we're going to start winding things down. One on the commission who doesn't.
I can tell, I mean, full disclosure, I am a consultant and our firm is a sub-consultant to Jarrett Walker on this plan. So I'm gonna be very neutral and I won't vote on anything. But it's hard, to me, the ridership concept is like, if you could design a system from scratch, we don't have transit, what would we build? That's kind of what I would build. But it's hard to take routes away from the people who, like you said, depend on it for a lifeline. And so, I'll leave it at that.
Well, let me try and summarize some thoughts that folks have, but I'd like to make just one comment before I do summarize that is, I have heard from members of the public, some members of the public, I've heard all sorts of different things, but one of them, people are deeply worried about some neighborhoods losing access to bus service, and that's not, this is not necessarily my opinion, but I have heard from people that they're deeply worried about taking away access from neighborhoods where car ownership, for example, is lower, or where people definitely need to depend on the bus service. So, obviously equity is going to be important, and I know that's going to come up in the conversation. But something else that I've thought as an economist, the work that I do is, I also worry too about, I think people are very, I think what I have read in the research and the scholarship is that bus riders are very service elastic, so service matters deeply, right? And you all talked about that. It's not useful if it's not safe, if it's every 90 minutes, if it's not frequent, if you can't connect. So I think a high level of service is really important. And whether that's frequency, I think also the condition of the vehicles matters, the bus stops and whether they're clean. I think those are also important to Randy's point of the pedestrian facilities and how they exist. But I also think there's an equity issue that worries me about coverage, because if someone needs to sit and wait 90 minutes, that has a high opportunity cost, right? That's time that people can be working, they're losing wages, they could be earning, they're losing time picking up their children or going to school or engaging with their families and cooking and all those things, making sure they have healthy meals and have enough time for it. So I think the equity issue is, to me, very complicated as well. But here's what I'd like to, and you all help me on this in terms of a summary of ideas and whether I have this right, because I probably don't. But I think there is, aspirationally, people are leaning towards a more ridership model. I've heard that from nearly everyone. I think there are some conditions attached to that that seems important for council to consider, is that one, we just need more resources, and we understand the exercise of constraints and that this is a trade-off, which, by the way, I do think that y'all, Jarrett Walker and Associates, has done a good job. To me, it's really important for the public to understand that trade-offs exist in any policy. So that's been really helpful. But yeah, we need to be more aggressive about more resources, and we'd like to send that message to council and the city. How do we do that? So that's also aspirational. I think I have heard that we need more complementary pedestrian facilities. And, that it overlaps with the existing plans that we have. And it sounds like thought has gone into that, and the layers are deeply complicated, but that it really aligns with the great work of planning that we've done along the way. And then this might be me adding this on, so maybe change in increments. It sounds like a pilot is not, maybe that's possible, but I think maybe the essence of that, Kate, is, can we engage in some level of incremental change over time that maybe leans towards. So I don't think we can blow up. I think what I'm hearing is we don't want to blow up the system and go with the concept of, the 2 lines. I know we realize that's extreme, but that may be incremental movement towards an aspirational ridership model. Do folks want to, please feel free to correct me.
We want to make a formal recommendation. I'm happy to make a motion with our recommendation if folks want to vote on a formal recommendation. Well, so I motion that we recommend to City Council to seek an option that leans ridership. Can add more to that if I want. Yeah, I think we're like not in the middle, but the step to the left, the lean towards ridership.
Thought you were going further.
Oh, I was gonna maybe also say something about keeping in mind, serving the low-income populations as well, but I'm wordsmithing on the spot.
Yeah, it's tough. We can workshop it. Does someone want to amend that motion?
Seeking more resources, or as you said, we want to ensure that we're always keeping a focus on adding to the pie, if you will, so that we can achieve some of these ridership objectives.
Well, I think the one way too, we want to endorse the master plan, transit master plan. And in lieu of being able to fulfill that plan at this point in time due to economic resources, we think that the best way forward in the steps to, because really, I mean, if we go in either direction, we'd be helping to fulfill the master plan, right? Because the master plan has both. It has high ridership.
Master plan said we want both.
Right, exactly, right.
And
so this is a step in that direction, I think, if we go either way. In our view, that maybe in a step towards fulfilling the transit master plan is to start implementing that through a higher ridership model rather than a higher coverage model.
Like adding that we need more. Also like to say that per council cares, some of that money should go to transit. Work I've been doing in the last year since we've met is looking how does transit. Oh, it's mind-boggling. Go on ChatGPT. How many more households could Asheville serve if they invested $10 million in transit? Do it. It'll blow you away. It's like thousands more households will be affected, and make up your number, 1 million, 10 million, whatever it is. Spend about 13 now, 10 or 11 or 12. So y'all
at
look
10 more, we each,
so when we ask for more resources, let's don't just say resources. Let's see resources towards the purpose of more. No, we're invested in that.
I think we need to keep it as simple enough for council.
motion
so
is
they don't-
long.
I mean, I'm
Keep in
serious, I
mind-
don't mean to be silly, but
Keep in mind that we're gonna draft a network based on the spectrum. And then we'll come back with that and say, this is this draft network, it added some here and it took away from here, if council says we wanna move towards.
Then
right.
what will really come to us is Micah has the two maps here, but it'll be some hybrid map, and then we'll go, oh, shoot, we said we wanted X, and that meant we have to get rid of Y. Do we want to do that? Come to really the route decision-making, I think. And I know that council's going to ask a lot of questions. I have a lot of high ridership and where isn't. Like, Dam has very low ridership. That with income and property values, and that means moving in the ridership direction, but that's one route. So I think it's really important, as Josh said, like, we're at a philosophy phase, but after the 18th, we're gonna get, I would hope that MMTC convenes again. Okay, this was the philosophical direction, what's the map, and really get into the details of that. I think that would be helpful too.
I think the motion that we want to make, and I'm not going to make the motion, and maybe you can go back
I'm
to
working
you,
on it, yeah.
is I think the motion I think what we're saying is that the multimodal recommends that we lean towards ridership, that we encourage the city to invest in safer streets and pedestrian facilities, and that we simply invest more resources in our transit system in the future as they come present when our numbers come in or whatever it might be.
Sure.
Motion, are you ready?
I think
Elise?
so,
You've had a
yeah.
chance
I think
to
so.
wordsmith over that.
I move that the Multimodal Transportation Commission recommends that council directs staff to seek a hybrid transit network system that leans towards ridership, and that council continues to seek ways to increase funding for additional transit services and safe street, period.
Yes.
Yeah, additional
Coverage.
transit.
So
Yeah.
lean towards ridership, but try to fund for more car.
Yes, seek additional funding sources to expand the transit network.
Do we have that? Do we need to repeat it? Does everyone, did someone write it down?
Have it
Videotape.
recorded.
Matt's over there doing lawyer stuff, right?
Have it on video.
Did you write it? Do you
Have it on video.
Could you just repeat it one more time to make sure the motion is clear?
Into the microphone. Thank you.
MMTC recommends that council direct staff to seek a hybrid system that leans toward the ridership model, and council continues to find more funding sources to expand the transit system.
Is that your motion?
That's the motion.
As a member of the working group for COA review, I would second that.
Second. Now we'll vote on this motion. So when I say your name.
Actually, you need to have do we have more discussion, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
sorry.
that's right. You're right. Robert's rule is there more discussion on the motion?
I think that we need to continue to emphasize the fulfilling the transit master plan, because we do that all the time. We make these plans and we ignore them. Like the bike plan has been ignored largely for the last 14 years, whatever it is now. It's been a lot, we don't even look at that anymore. We don't want to have a new one. So I think anytime we do things, we should say in these framework of the plans that we've already developed. So this does that, but I think we need to say in the context of fulfilling the transit master plan, this is our recommendation. Because if we ignore these plans ongoing, we should just not fund hundreds of thousands of dollars on these plans, because we do that in many situations.
You are amending Elise's motion by adding
Of the Transit Master Plan, the Multimodal Transportation Commission recommends that council direct staff to seek a hybrid model system that leans toward the rider model, and council continues to find more funding sources.
Say why we need to expand. When we say expand transit, we mean coverage of the coverage model? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I think we're framing it in the.
Does our motion need to say everything, or can we provide some additional
how-
context
how much
separately
lawyering do we
from
need
the
to do?
motion?
6 different motions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. It sounds like the motion stands, the amendment. Other discussion. Re-motion?
I think it's been
No,
motioned
now
and
we can vote.
seconded, and
Yeah,
we
okay,
can.
so now we will vote on this item. Thanks, everyone, for your input on it. So committee members, when I see your name, please say aye or nay. Kenny Armstrong.
Can I abstain? I think I can abstain, right? I'll do that.
Still have a quorum.
Joe Chesler.
Aye.
Josh Jones.
Aye.
Bill Loftus. Lee Smarter.
Aye.
Micah McLean.
Aye.
Kate Ryba.
Aye.
Randy Warren.
Aye.
And Jack Eigelman is an aye. So the motion for the recommendation carries. Thanks, everyone, for really
Guys.
good discussion. And there's a lot more to come, so.
I think it's for council really at large. Like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm one of those, but I
Yes.
think
Yeah, thanks. And Elise, thanks for
We
wordsmithing
appreciate
that under pressure and everyone's
Thanks,
contribution.
Lucy.
Yeah, good. Yeah, definitely, Lucy. Okay.
And everybody has public comment opportunity at city council when this comes up.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, and I feel like we're early in the process. I'd still love to see what the public has to say about this, which we really don't know. So I feel like that will probably influence maybe interpretation. So hopefully we'll have a chance again to meet on this. I don't know. That's item number 7. But right now, item number 6 on the agenda is working group participation, which is to appoint 2 MMTC members for each of the following projects. A is traffic calming, and B is Smith Mill Creek Greenway. We need 2 members for each of those projects. So y'all, maybe we can workshop this. Who is, let's start with traffic calming. Yeah. No, Anna, go ahead. Yeah, you want to explain? Oh, yeah, come on up. I didn't realize you were
I don't
on
want to
that
steal
one.
Lucy's thunder.
Anna Sexton, everyone.
For Smith Mill Creek, but I'm going to give you all a quick blurb about the traffic calming policy update project. Chris Cairns, our traffic engineer, who many of you have met, manages our traffic calming program. And we advertised an RFP back in August for a consultant consultants to propose on updating our current policy. We're currently in the process of ready to take to council shortly after, and anticipate having some sort of like advocacy working group, and that would be what members of the
Like a public-facing support, public piece of it?
The working group would be, it sounds like very similar to maybe the transit. Other organizations, it would be public-facing, yeah.
Yeah, so awesome. So we need 2 volunteers to sit on that.
Participate on
Yeah,
that.
and that's exciting, really excited to see traffic calming policy moving forward. So if you want to raise your hand, we've got Randy and we've got Micah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So you're seeking 2 representatives from MMTC. What other stakeholder groups are you seeking representatives from?
We haven't determined.
Okay. I just wanted to advocate. I'm also on the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, and it's a big topic for neighborhood residents is concern about traffic calming and the fact that our policy currently is very burdensome on the residents to make the case for the need for the traffic calming. The fact that the threshold to like determine that the need is there is relatively high, and that there's limited options, limited tools for the city to use. So I just wanted to advocate that when you guys are forming this group to also include neighborhood representation as well.
We talked about that actually in the minutes from our last meeting.
Minutes from the last meeting.
Wow.
I said the same thing.
So do you think,
So,
if we nominate Micah and Randy, that may leave you out, but it sounds like there'll be representation.
I'm overcommitted.
Yeah, okay, all right. So then, all right, so it sounds like Randy and Micah. Make a motion for that, or is that just, no, okay. All right, everyone good on that? All right, and then Smith.
If you want to come to NAC and ask for 2 representatives from them too,
Okay.
that'd
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
or
Okay.
CAN or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make a note.
Oh.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
then
Anna.
Smith, Mill Creek Greenway?
Yeah, the Smith Mill Creek Greenway is really a long greenway corridor that we plan to do a feasibility study for the entire corridor. It starts roughly, it parallels Patton Avenue. It could go off-road or it could go on-road. It starts around the intersection of New Leicester Highway and Patton Avenue, and it would go towards the Jeff Bowen Bridge, but go under the new I-26 bridges and meander around Sam's Club and what will be former Racket Club, I believe, and then finally ends down at the corner of Craven Street, Emma Road, and Hazel Mill. So that's the corridor. We'll be doing a feasibility study for the entire corridor, and then design and engineering with construction bid documents for the section from Patton Avenue, Leicester Highway to a little bit farther down from Louisiana, where it will hook up to the multi-use path facilities that will be built with I-26 to go over Jeff Bowen Bridge. So about a third of the corridor will be completely designed and ready to seek construction dollars, but the feasibility study will cover the whole corridor. We will probably put the RFQ out in January. We'll start working in March. The working group would probably meet quarterly. It's so far away right now that I don't have concrete details on that, but since we have you today, we just wanted to get the 2 volunteers so that we'll know who to contact when we're ready.
Show of hands who are interested in volunteering. Anyone else want to compete for that? Nope. Okay, so we got Joe and Josh. Thank you all.
I will say, I'm the Greenway representative. Do I need to like be on that, or it doesn't matter? I didn't think about
Not
that.
need to be on it.
Okay, okay.
We'll probably be
I'll be in the loop
letting
anyway.
everyone who used to be on the Transportation Committee know about the meetings.
All right, thank you all. Item number 7 is our next regular meeting, and as folks probably know, advisory boards meet on demand through June 30th, 2027. So we do not have a date set, but we'll, at some point.
I'll chime in that it would be really ideal if before the final COA comes to council, MMTC meets again. Public comment, y'all can weigh in, so that. We don't know how this works, but I encourage that, and I hope you all encourage it too.
I'd love to see us meet on the traffic calming as well. I think that would be a great discussion for the group. Chime in on that, to me, can really make a big difference.
Well, and it's my understanding of that boards can meet if council wants us to meet, they can direct staff for us to meet, so please.
Request to meet.
Yeah.
Advocate to my peers to meet. So
Yeah.
let's all ask everybody if we can meet. Then we'll cover our bases. Yes.
That asking too much.
I don't think there will be a lot of evolution. It'll be like they come to us November 18th. Us in Q1.
I think we can align an MMTC meeting to occur like right before the next council, not the November 18th, but the next time we come to council, we would come to you guys before, like we're doing right now.
Yeah, and I recognize that we need to be cognizant of the demand on staff and the will of the mayor or city manager. But yeah, I'd love, speaking for the board, the more opportunities we have to gather and provide input, we would love. We think that's important, so.
I think we said next council would be February, so late January, early February would be our target.
Moving on, you all, we're going to wrap this up as we're over time.
If I can say one more thing about
Yeah, okay,
our
Lucy,
next
one more
meeting.
thing. You get the
Our
final
next
say.
meeting, we're going to need to talk about directions that we received for new rules and procedures for all of our commissions. So we'll have a draft of that, and you will be. Is there anything else to mention about that?
Unless there are any objections, I will now adjourn the meeting. Are there any? Meeting adjourned. Thanks,
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for staying over time, city staff.
Well,
Yeah.
Great. Good job, Jack.